All right, excellent. So I am going to go ahead and introduce our speaker tonight, Alex Kubler. And I hope I pronounced your name right. Sorry if I didn't.
Yeah, no, that's great.
She is going to go ahead and continue on with the presentation tonight. And Alex, if you could take a minute to tell us a little bit more about yourself and move ahead with the presentation.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. I really am looking forward to having this opportunity to talk to this group of people. I am coming to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I am a speech pathologist. I work primarily with kiddos with hearing loss in the early intervention setting. Should I be able to see the slides at this point?
This is Carrie. Yes, you should.
Okay. It says recording in progress, and then it just says, the screen is blank, and it says share content. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, if you can click on shared content, that would be what the PowerPoint is. I don't know if you do that, if it brings it up. I've never used an iPad, and if anyone who is on the line is familiar with where she or what she would do.
Can you just advance my slides for me? Is that possible?
Sure. You just let me know.
Let's just go with that. Let's just go with that.
Okay.
That would be helpful. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, this is Carrie. Right now you're on slide 1, the introduction.
The introduction. Okay, go ahead and advance, and I'll just say the word advance. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay, so this next slide just says about me. So I did my graduate studies at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who's in the final 4. Oh, I can see my slides now. Oh, that's great. Okay, perfect. So keep doing what we're doing. My graduate studies were at University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and I was on a grant through the Department of Education to prepare speech pathologists and audiologists to work with young children with hearing loss. And I did a lot of my clinical work at the Children's Cochlear Implant Center at UNC. And then I got to work at Child's Voice in Illinois, which is how I got to meet Miss Kristen Nolfi. And I had a really great 2 years there working with their early intervention program. I facilitated the toddler group, and I did a lot of home visiting. And I definitely learned a lot about working with children and families with hearing loss. Then I wanted to move back home to Pittsburgh, which is where I am now, and I took a job with a great early intervention agency called TICE in Allegheny County, and they were just very focused on infant mental health, parent-child interaction, and just kind of making sure that the relationship between the parent and the child was strong. So it was totally routines-based. So I kind of learned that if I did accomplish nothing, in terms of speech and language, but if I went in there and I did a couple of activities that strengthened the bond between the parent and the child, then I did my job and that it was a productive session. And I think that learning that, especially in the context of working with maybe some families who are in crisis or families who are dealing with poverty and who don't have a lot, I think that definitely changed my outlook on how I work with children and families, and just to be more child-led and relationship-based. So that is me. And I also have a personal connection to music. I mean, this topic is music in children with hearing loss. I was a singer throughout my life, and in college and in high school, I performed in, classical choirs and in shows. And then actually when I moved to Chicago, I got to be a backup singer for one of my girlfriends who played in a band. So music has always been important to me, and I find that in my sessions, in my work, that I use music and singing a lot to enhance that parent-child interaction and that bond, because it's free, it doesn't cost anything, and it doesn't really require much at all in terms of equipment or supplies or anything like that. You can just do it with your child. So that is me, and if you could go ahead and go on to the next slide, advance. Perfect. So this, relationship between parents and their children starts obviously from the very beginning in utero, and it's really amazing because even around week 25 or 26, babies in the womb have actually been shown to respond to voices and noise. Recordings taken in utero, revealed that sounds from outside the womb are muted by about half. Since there's no open air in the uterus, the baby's surrounded by the amniotic fluid, and that just means that all sounds from outside the body are muffled. And the most clear sound that the baby can hear, especially in the third trimester, is the voice of the mother. And studies have shown that a baby can already recognize his mother's voice in the womb by, the heart rate suggests that baby's more alert when mom is talking. So go ahead and advance. So I just want to talk about, the myriad of benefits of musical interactions between parents and caregivers, or even between teachers and their students, because it is really about the interaction. And I want to talk about the benefits in terms of the different areas of development, all different areas of child development, because music really does have an impact on all of those areas. Go ahead. Perfect. So starting with communication skills. So as I said, the number one thing that we're talking about here is facilitating that bond between the child and the parent or the caregiver or the teacher. So when you're singing or doing rhymes together with your child is encouraged to look at your face, make eye contact, pay attention, concentrate, and try to imitate sounds and actions. And when you're singing, you'll naturally pause after certain words or after a certain point in a song, and that period of silence and that expectant look that you give prompts your child to make a contribution to the conversation. So this periods of silence that occur naturally in music signal that it's the child's turn. And this is how that important skill of turn-taking begins to become a habit. And all of these behaviors enhance communication skills that your child needs before they can start to talk. And also in something like a repetitive song, when you pause and build that anticipation for the word that's coming next, your child's brain is just on hyperdrive. That pause activates language and memory centers in the brain, and the child is able to process what's going to come next. Okay, go ahead. So in terms of listening and language, so by just providing your child with interesting sounds to listen to, so for example, sounds made by noisemakers, music, voices, when a person sings, you encourage them to pay attention to sound. So just through listening to music or singing, your child will begin to realize that sounds are different from one another, and they'll be able to begin to recognize routines or actions through sound. So for example, a parent might sing, row, row, row your boat, and the baby can start to rock back and forth because they know what that sound means. Or the itsy bitsy spider, and the child puts their hands together like the spider climbing up the web. Or even something like the cleanup song. When they hear that, they're prompted, they know what's going to happen next, they know it's time to put their things away. So in terms of language development, just joining vocally in songs helps to establish a more natural sounding voice and fluency. And fluency just means production of a string of sounds, which can sometimes be a real challenge, especially for kiddos with hearing loss. And it encourages production of a wider variety of sounds. So singing to your child, singing with your child helps them to understand the meaning of words and phrases, and it also gives them the opportunity to practice saying them. Okay, next slide. In terms of cognitive development, singing can introduce a ton of new concepts. So for example, the song Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes. You've got that body part vocabulary built right in, or a lot of songs have size concepts like big and little, or maybe counting down from 5. All of those different types of concepts that are just embedded right into the song where the child's learning and they don't even really realize it. Repeating songs over and over again helps your child to memorize sequences of words and phrases, and in turn that strengthens their memory. With motor skills, participating in songs or doing finger plays or manipulating noisemakers or simple musical instruments, just giving your kid that opportunity to get up and move around, especially during a day at school when they're kind of expected to sit for some periods of time. Incorporating movement with music is a great way for kids to strengthen their fine motor skills. So in a finger play like the Itsy Bitsy Spider, you've got the fingers and the hands are working, or even something like facial expression, learning to control facial expression with a song. And then also the gross motor skills, those bigger muscles, the arms and the legs, in a song like The Ants Go Marching or London Bridge or Ring Around the Rosie, something where they're going to be using their whole body. Songs like that can also help improve coordination and balance, which can also be particularly tricky for the kids with hearing loss. Okay, next slide. So social, emotional, and creativity. Encouraging your child to listen and respond to music and express emotions through actions and through their voice, it does truly strengthen, their emotional development, because while your child is sharing in a musical activity with you or with a teacher or with another peer, they're becoming more sociable, more able to adapt their behavior to that of their peers, more able to understand and respect feelings of others, and also to just learn to enjoy to be part of a group. Because if you think about it, a lot of times when groups of people come together, music is involved. A lot of times it's involved. It could be, at church or at a birthday party or at a basketball game. Singing and music comes up often when you're in a group with other people. And so they are just kind of learning to enjoy to be part of that. In a classroom, even when a teacher pauses in a song or in a word sequence and a kid can shout out the word that comes next, they're sharing information that they know with adults, and they're sharing information that they know in front of their peers. That moment when they're able to do that and when they're allowed to do that is huge for a little kiddo. It's a huge confidence builder that we're able to provide them with. So there are also several ways to encourage kiddos to develop creativity through music. And one of the easiest ways is to just encourage a child to respond to music in their own unique way, because these are super critical years. Your child is developing their own tastes, their own styles, their own preferences for moving their body, their likes and their dislikes. And just a big way to encourage creativity is to let your child know that it's okay to, respond however they want, and that whatever they want to do, sing, dance, laugh, play, is acceptable and it's welcomed. And you're just giving your child ample opportunities to experiment with music, with noisemakers, with simple instruments, whistles, drums, xylophones. All of these things can help your child to become more creative and more self-confident, self-reliant. Next slide. And this is just silly because, you've got, even as a little kid, maybe not an infant, but they're going to have their own styles, their own tastes, and their likes and dislikes. And music is just an easy way to kind of foster that and nourish that and enjoy that in your child. Next slide. This graphic just kind of shows how music and spoken language are different and how they're the same. So on the left side under music, you see music encompasses a greater spectral range. So frequency-wise, you're going to go much lower and much higher in pitch if you're singing, for example, than you would if you were just talking. Music can exist without language. So you can have an instrumental piece that has no words at all, but it's still music. Over on the right, under language, Language can be altered in music without changing the music itself. So you can change the lyrics to a song, or you can sing a song in a different language, but the music itself would still be the same. All kiddos hear spoken language. Spoken language, is going to surround any child wherever they live, whatever their culture may be, but music may not necessarily be so prevalent. So in the center, we've got all these similarities between music and language. So they have a shared terminology, pitch, timbre, timing, intensity. They both have some aspect of melody, melodic contour. And there are similar strategies being used when you're listening to music and when you're listening to spoken language. And also when you're learning to listen to music and you're learning to listen to spoken language. So early exposure is critical for both. And they both follow the same sequence of skills or milestones to learning to listen. Okay, next one. Components of music. So a lot of those words that we talked about on the previous slide basically encompass what makes any piece of music unique, whether it's an orchestra playing or a rap song or Itsy Bitsy Spider. They've all got these types of characteristics. So the word timbre, for example, is a characteristic quality that distinguishes one voice or instrument from another. So for example, when we learn to listen to music, eventually we can tell the difference between a trumpet and the drums, or a piano and a harp, even though they're both in a way stringed instruments. The melody is just an arrangement of notes. It has nothing to do with how fast, it has nothing to do with how loud, it's just the arrangement of the notes. So you can recognize a melody without any words. So if I would just hum like da 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 da. Some of you might have thought, okay, that's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Or some of you might have thought that's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because they have the same melody. It's a different song, they have different lyrics, but it's the same melody, it's the same sequence of notes in the same order. And tempo just means speed or rate of the music, if it's going to be slow or if it's going to be fast. Go ahead. So child-directed or infant-directed speech, this is motherese. And long before a kiddo can even sit up on his or her own, they can demonstrate that they love being talked to directly because they respond. They respond to infant-directed speech with vocalization, body movements. They tap their arms, they kick their legs. And we do this naturally. We use this infant-directed speech with our babies to help them learn language. And child-directed speech resembles music in a lot of ways, and that it differs from normal speech. It's clearer, it's more repetitive, uses a much wider pitch variation, it's more melodious, and there's more intonation, and it usually has a slower tempo, or at least periods of a slower tempo, with that sing-song rhythm. So, hi, baby, how you doing? What are you doing, baby? Like that, motherese, like we've all done, I'm sure. When speech is clear like this, your child can hear more important grammatical information that's contained within that speech, like word endings, like an S for a plural, or an ing, or sometimes you would place stress on keywords like the child's name, and there's usually important pauses where a comma might go in written speech. And you can enhance your child's speech and language development by interacting with them regularly using child-directed speech, really animated facial expressions, and meaningful gestures and touch. And you probably do this naturally without even thinking about it. But music, in its essence, is basically just an exaggerated version, or a more organized version, more predictable version of infant-directed speech. Okay, next one. So unaccompanied music is often the most useful, with no no background music, just your voice. And I know that can be like somewhat intimidating, especially to adults, because maybe they don't have confidence in their voice, they don't want to sing on their own, but really, like, your child benefits most from just hearing you. They can hear the words more clearly without all the instruments playing in the background. Often whenever I ask a family, like, does your child like music, does your child enjoy songs, they'll automatically whip out a cell phone and pull up, a YouTube Kids version of Wheels on the Bus, or the theme song to their child's favorite show. And then that's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all, but that's definitely, not what I'm getting at here in this talk tonight. I'm definitely just trying to push the idea of the interaction between the child and the caregiver. And that's best fostered when there's not other extraneous noise, or especially not an electronic device present, because that's definitely going to take away from the experience. So, go a cappella. Have the confidence, especially if it's just you and your child. Like, who cares if you don't have a fabulous voice? I bet that your child would be so excited just to see you trying to sing. If you're getting down on your child's level, looking at them, using like an interesting facial expression, an interesting voice, and you're giving your child your full attention, you probably, I've seen it with kiddos, just amazed at how they will kind of attend to you and give you the attention that you give to them. And then once your child, can join in with singing, you can kind of scale it back a little bit and just kind of sing along softly in the background and be ready to prompt your child if he forgets what comes next. And this, it also, going really slowly, can help your child to feel confident and not worrying. You can go at your child's pace, and you can be more responsive to your child's contributions. Music is more interesting to listen to when there are loudness and tempo changes, and I really like to try to coach parents to model loudness and tempo changes and exaggerate them as much as you can to draw your child's attention. So, for example, the end of a song can usually be signaled by a big slowdown. So you can let your child know that the song is coming to an end by your tempo change. So, for example, when you're singing a song like Old MacDonald or Wheels on the Bus that can kind of have endless, verses, you can say verse after verse after verse. But if you let them know that it's coming to an end with a tempo change, so for example, you're singing, people on the bus go up and down, up and down, up and down. People on the bus go up and down, all through the town, and yay, and let them give themselves a round of applause and have that real marked ending celebration at the end of the song. Drawing your kid's attention to tempo changes, loudness changes, whispering or yelling, singing parts of them loud or soft. It's really, really useful to draw their attention to things like that, especially in kiddos who are CI recipients who might struggle with those suprasegmentals in speech, not the vowels and consonants, but everything else, all of those other parts of music that are all intertwined when we're speaking. So as your kiddo becomes more familiar with songs, you're going to do them over and over and over again, and that's great. The more familiar they become with it, the more able they're more active participants in the song. And with fuller participation, the child's more confident, they enjoy it more. And it also helps them to learn the words and phrases that are in the song, and then they can anticipate the words and phrases that are coming next. So again, as songs become more familiar, the child can kind of take the lead and initiate or request a song through an action, like a gesture, or a single word like star or bus or spider. And then if the caregiver responds to that initiative positively, they're more likely to do it again in the future. Okay, next one. So how, and when to sing. Honestly, any time. I try to help my families come up with, times to sing a song based on routines. So there are so many things that you do throughout your day that you're going to do every day no matter what, multiple times, like diaper change, riding in the car, getting home from school, cleaning up, bath time, meal time, or something as simple as washing your hands. So you can make a song out of everything. It doesn't have to be a song that is, on YouTube or that there are specific words to. You can just make it up. And especially if your child isn't used to you singing and you throw in a little melody in your day, you'd be surprised how it gets their attention. So whistle while you work, that just means sing what you're doing. Sing about what you're doing, especially if, maybe you've got a kiddo who can't entertain themselves and you need to clean the oven and you just want them to behave. So doing something like singing about what you're doing while you're doing it and trying to just make them laugh. Because if they're laughing, they're listening, is kind of what I tell my families. If you're making them laugh, you're making them listen and you're making them pay attention to you. Making instruments out of household items is something that I like to encourage families to do. You don't have to buy anything. You can just find things that are in your house. You can put, frozen peas in a Tupperware container and shake them, or a container of like breadcrumbs, or use a pot and a pan, or use a paper towel roll as like a microphone, and take turns talking into the microphone. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It can just be tapping on the table at dinner time, something like that. And the more you can involve older and younger siblings, I think the better, because honestly, music is something that can, just cross those lines and you can share a song together. There's no bad ideas, there are no wrong answers. It takes a little bit of maybe courage to go outside of your comfort zone and do something different, with the kiddo. Okay, next. And this is a song list. This is absolutely not an exhaustive song list, but songs that are like my go-tos in my early intervention sessions. So with younger children, so under 3, I think the first song I would teach a baby, it's not even a song, it's just a thing. How big is Noah? So big. And the baby puts their hands up. And that's one of the first times that I'm able to see if a kiddo is listening, and not only can they detect what I'm saying, but they know exactly what I'm saying enough so that they can respond in a predictable way. So they hear, how big is Noah? And he puts his arms up in the air. And that is a really helpful tool that I use, in my sessions. Patty cake, obviously that simple clapping motion. Twinkle, twinkle is also probably one of the most simple. You just kind of open and close your hands. And all of those songs most people know. My biggest challenge is getting parents to sing them without the help of a phone, without the backup of, a song, a recorded song. With older kiddos, a lot of I do treat in some daycares, and a lot of daycares are using these Laurie Berkner Band songs. I don't know if you have kiddos that age or if you've heard them, but the super popular one is "We Are the Dinosaurs Marching, Marching." And the kids seem to love it. They love her whole album. And then you've got, the longer songs that have they go on, and there are lots of lyrics, like "The Green Grass Grows," "Going on a Bear Hunt." Any song that involves counting, like count typically from 5 down to 1. And we were talking earlier about gross motor songs, so "Freeze Dance" or "Shake Your Sillies Out." Those are 2 that I use often for kids who don't want to sit still and maybe they just need a break. If we're doing something structured, and then they can just take a break, like do the freeze dance and then come sit back down, and literally shake your sillies out and then go and sit down. All the Raindrops is one that I just brought back into my little repertoire, and I don't know about you guys, but my mom sang this to me, and I like it because it just encourages open vocal tract vocalization. So all the raindrops are lemon-drops, gum-drops, so what a rain that would be. Standing outside with my mouth open wide. Ah, 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 and all kiddos can do that. They can open their mouth and just make a sound. So you can actually use that one with younger kiddos too, but again, this is not by any means an exhaustive list. And if anybody, wants any kind of ideas, or you have a age group, or, maybe you're a preschool teacher, you can definitely call me and we can bounce ideas off each other. But these are just some of my go-tos that are kind of always in my back pocket. You don't need any supplies, you just go for it. And then the next slide is just my resources. And I can give my email address right now if anybody has any questions. I should have put it on there, but it's Alexanna, so ALEXANNA at TICeinc.com. So that's TEISINC.com. And that is that for me.
This is Carrie. Thank you so much, Alex. Does anyone have any questions for her, or maybe want her to expand on anything that she has shared tonight?
Hi, yes, this is Laura.
Hi.
I was wondering if Alex had any information about music lessons and children with cochlear implants or children who are deaf, and if there's one method that she would recommend over another, like Suzuki, or if she just has any information about that.
How old of a kiddo are you talking about?
Well, my kid is just 19 months now, but music lessons are something that's really important to us. And we'll be starting probably our 4-year-old next winter in lessons, and so we hope he's not far behind, but I have no idea what that would look like. I wear hearing aids and studied music my whole life, but I'm not fully deaf like he is. So just looking forward, that's something we talk about all the time. He really loves music. His audiologist says he's an auditory kid. He loves to listen.
Yeah. I mean, I would just go, is your older son, did you have an older son who's 4?
My daughter, yeah. Yep.
Daughter?
She will be 4.
And they're starting or already started music lessons?
No, probably closer towards the end of the year.
So I would just, go with whatever your style is. So since you are a musician yourself, I don't know if you were like classically trained, like piano or like musical theater, dance. I would just go with whatever you feel like you could kind of help your child out with. Do you know what I mean? Like, not that he has to do the same thing, he or she has to do the same thing as you, but I mean, I'd be inclined to kind of guide them in the direction of where I started, because you have personal knowledge. So I took piano, and I did like little dance class, like any other little kiddo would. And then I didn't get into singing until I was a little bit older, but any classes that are offered in your local area, any music class that's offered, especially if they have like a toddler group with kids of a similar age, yeah, I would just go for it as if they're any other kiddo. Absolutely, go for it, and it's never too early.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If you can be there with them, that would be great too. I don't know if any courses kind of like a mommy and me song class or anything, but sometimes it's just, the biggest thing is just behavior management, and like your kid's going to run away, and they're all going to want to run away. But that's what they're designed for. But yeah, never too early. Go for it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
All right. This is Carrie. If no one else has any questions tonight, then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Alex, thank you so much for your expertise in the area. You offered so many great suggestions, and I was even saying to my husband, I turned around, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that song.
Right? I did too.
Yeah, it was good. So I really appreciate the information that you shared tonight.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good. And I think, you know, what you shared is just backing them up and letting them enjoy it. And, you know, they don't have to be perfect off the get-go or anything like that. You know, it's all part of the process, just like any other kiddo.
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for sharing your time. And thank you for all that jumped on the call and learned more about this topic tonight. Everyone have a great evening.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Thanks a lot, guys.